Welcome to the channel, and in this video I'll be going over my collection of zombie films that George Romero directed. He made 6 of them over his career, and he's known as sort of the godfather of the zombie genre, since he created the mythology that we all know of today. So let's get into the video. First up is Night of the Living Dead. This came out in 1968, and it established the zombie lore that we all come to expect from any media nowadays, where the undead come back to life to feed on human flesh, and the only way to defeat them really is to take out the brain. There were zombie films before Night of the Living Dead, but they were just reanimated people, usually by some sort of witchcraft or voodoo magic. Criterion put this out on Blu-ray in 2018, and would later put it out again in 4K. The film looks fantastic, and the restoration was done at the Museum of Modern Art and was supervised by Romero before his unfortunate passing. One of my favorite comic book artists, Sean Phillips, was commissioned to do the artwork. Check out any of his work with Ed Brubaker, like Kill or Be Killed, Criminal, or The Fade Out. You won't be disappointed, I promise. One of my favorite special features on this edition is a series of interviews with Frank Darabont, who was the showrunner for the first season of The Walking Dead, along with directing films like Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, and The Mist. Robert Rodriguez, who's known for Desperado, Sin City, The Faculty, and From Dusk Till Dawn, also Planet Terror, which is sort of a zombie film. Guillermo del Toro was the third interviewee, who you may know from his 2 Hellboy movies, Pan's Labyrinth, and the Oscar winner for Shape of Water. They all talk about being inspired by Night of the Living Dead and how original it was. They also talk about their admiration for George, since he was an indie filmmaker, making films outside of Hollywood and doing it in Pittsburgh, adding a real DIY aspect to his films. George was also known to add social commentary to his films, making them culturally relevant and not just a schlocky B-movie for critics to write off. Next is 1978's Dawn of the Dead. This Ultimate Edition DVD set was put out by Anchor Bay back in the day, and it's unfortunately still the definitive release here in the States. There is a 4K that Second Sight put out over in the UK, and someday I'll finally get it, because it seems pretty hopeless that some company or label here will finally get the rights to put out their own awesome collector's edition. This set comes with 3 versions of the film, with the theatrical, extended, and European cuts, and they're all on their own disc too. There is a 4th disc which has a great documentary on the film. It's over an hour long and interviews pretty much every cast and crew member you'd want to hear from. It starts off with George recollecting how he got into filmmaking and talking about his career leading up to Dawn of the Dead. Then you get a full breakdown of the inception of the film, going through the entire shoot. Tom Savini gives a lot of great insight into how they accomplished all the various special effects they did for the film. It's a great documentary, and I'm sure somebody might have uploaded it to YouTube by now. This set also includes issue 1 of the comic book adaptation of the movie, and it was written by Steve Niles, who's the co-creator of 30 Days of Night. Next up is Day of the Dead, and this collector's edition DVD was put out by Scream Factory. I bought this at an FYE that was going out of business. I like that it came with the slipcover, and that art by Nathan Thomas Milliner is just awesome. Plus this DVD was super cheap, so it was a no-brainer. My appreciation for this film goes up every time I rewatch this movie, and it might be my favorite of Romero's zombie films. It has some of my favorite performances in any of his movies. Laurie Cardille is great as the lead, and Joe Pilato makes for a great antagonist for her. Also, Sherman Howard as Bub gives the most iconic zombie performance, which might not sound like a big accomplishment, but because he gets quite a bit of screen time as we slowly see him exhibit some human qualities. There's a great documentary on this DVD that's an hour and a half long and features all the principal cast and crew, including Romero himself, who says this is his favorite zombie film. Tom Savini is also interviewed, and he says that this movie features his best work, and I would agree with him on that. He goes over all the various effects he did for the film, and they hold up very well. This movie also has a great score by John Harrison, and it was sampled in the song M1A1 by the Gorillaz. One day I'll upgrade this to Blu-ray, but I'm pretty happy with this DVD for now. Next is Land of the Dead, and this collector's edition was also put out by Scream Factory. This was Romero's return to the zombie genre after over 2 decades, and this movie came out a year after the Zack Snyder remake of Dawn of the Dead. Both movies were also put out by Universal, and this was Romero's first major studio movie, well, at least for his zombie films. Not sure if any of his other movies were made by a major studio. Romero seemed to always shy away from making Hollywood films and was a true independent filmmaker. Sadly, Romero wasn't interviewed for this release, and he had passed away a few months before this came out. I really would have loved to hear his thoughts on the film all these years later. I really like this film, and it was the first movie of his that I saw. Scream Factory did a good job with this release and got some great new interviews with John Leguizamo and Robert Joy, who plays Charlie, and he's probably my favorite character in the movie. They also interview a few of the principal zombie actors, and this movie continues what George was doing in Day of the Dead. where the zombies are evolving and aren't just mindless reanimated corpses that only want to consume human flesh. This release also ports over all the previous bonus features, and Scream Factory put this release out again on 4K. I also own Land of the Dead on UMD. This isn't the only Romero film to get a UMD release. The original Dawn of the Dead was put out by Anchor Bay, and I hope to get that someday.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
And as for this release, it does come with some bonus features, which is rarely the case when it comes to this format. One of the special features is about Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright's cameos as zombies in the movie. Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite movies, so it was cool to see them be a part of this film, since they were obviously huge fans of George's work. I've brought this to watch on a few trips, and I still travel with my PSP to this day. I plan on doing a video on the UMD format in the near future, since it is so sentimental to me, and that way I can show off my collection. Next is Diary of the Dead. This steelbook was put out last year, and it wasn't exclusive to Walmart. I picked it up because I just dug the artwork, and it was reasonably priced. It's been a long time since I've rewatched this movie. I did own this on DVD at one point, and I'm not sure if I just got rid of it or lost it. I remember thinking the movie was okay, but I rewatched it for this video, and it's fine, I guess. It definitely pales in comparison to the previous zombie movies. The characters aren't as memorable, and the found footage aspect feels pretty contrived in scenes. Also, this movie is very much of its time, back when people were talking about viral videos and the amount of hits they were getting. Now we're just concerned with views, likes, and click-through rates. I didn't remember Tatiana Maslany being in this movie. This was obviously before Orphan Black and before she was twerking as She-Hulk. Also, Sean Roberts, who was in Land of the Dead briefly, but he's in this movie, and he'll always be remembered for playing Wesker in the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films. No new special features were added for this release, but I would recommend streaming this movie before buying it. The last release I have is Survival of the Dead, and it was George's final zombie film. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I also rewatched this movie, and like Diary of the Dead, it's okay. It's sort of a sequel slash spin-off of Diary. In Diary, those characters get hijacked by a military squad at some point, and this movie focuses on that said military group. I do really like the concept of interweaving these stories. The plot is that this military group goes to an island off the coast of Delaware, where you have these two sparring families who both have different ideas on how to deal with zombies. One family believes they should be wiped out, and the other thinks there's a chance to save them. The people on this island have Irish accents, and I wish this DVD had subtitles, because at times I had trouble understanding what exactly they were saying. I'm also hard of hearing, so there's that. The best part of this DVD, other than the cool lenticular cover, is the documentary on the second disc. It documents the entire production of the film, and it was done by Michael Felsher, who's done a lot of special features for home video releases, and is now putting out his own collector's editions starting last year with Trick or Treat on 4K. This documentary gives an honest look at the making of the movie, and George talks about the struggles of making a modern independent film. I would say this DVD is worth picking up just for this documentary alone. Thanks for watching this video, and let me know what your favorite Romero zombie film is in the comments section below. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a movie time.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.